but the soot and smoke made visibility in the tunnel almost nil. On January 8, 1902, a White Plains Express train entered the tunnel. It was a freezing cold day, and the thick smoke from the steam engine made the tunnel pitch black. The train's engineer never saw the stop signal. At top speed, he plowed the White Plains Express into the rear of a stopped commuter train. 15 people died, and 36 more were injured. It's the worst train wreck in New York City's history. The railroad had a problem: how to allow trains underground and keep them safe. Since 1920, all trains on the Northeast Corridor have run on electricity. We're making good time, but New York's Penn Station is the busiest in America. With 600,000 people passing through each day, New York's Penn Station sees more passenger traffic in 24 hours than all three of New York's airports combined see in 1 year. We've only got 5 minutes to get everybody on and off this train. When you're running the fastest train on the continent, every second counts. The timer starts now. I'm racing up the Northeast Corridor on the Acela Express, America's only high-speed train. We left D.C. at 10 a.m. sharp. Now it's noon, which means one thing. We're entering the biggest, most populated city in the country, Gotham itself.
Wow, unreal. We just came out of the tunnel and we're in the city of New York. We're in New York, and I can't even count how many tracks are here.
New York is the busiest passenger rail hub in the United States. New Yorkers account for more than 2/3 of all the country's rail passengers.
Wow, it looks like spaghetti. It's tracks. Not used to this. And here we are in Penn Station, the Big Apple, New York City.
Traffic in and out of Penn Station is non-stop, day and night.
I'm in New York's Penn Station, the busiest train station in America. Amtrak alone serves 8 million people a year here. The original Penn Station was the jewel in the Pennsylvania Railroad's crown.
In 1910, the Pennsylvania Railroad began regular train service in and out of Penn Station. The original pink granite structure took up 2 city blocks and covered 8 acres. To build it cost the equivalent of $2.5 billion in today's money. Its main waiting room was the largest indoor space in New York. During World War II, passenger numbers soared, but by the late 1950s, airplanes began to replace rail travel. Today, just the lower levels of Penn Station exist, but they still see more traffic than any other station in America. Of the 1,365 trains that run through here every weekday, 35 of them are the cream of the crop. That's the Acela. Amtrak needs to juggle hundreds of trains at a time and keep them on schedule.
Amtrak controls all the trains in the region right here.
For the Acela, every minute counts, so they have priority over every train on that board. If you look at the tracks that are green, that means there's a route cleared for the train that's coming. Behind it, the track turns red. That means the system's not going to let any other trains in there. Every 90 seconds, 1,000 passengers go through Penn Station. It's a precision job keeping all of these trains moving. Right here are the train dispatchers. It's their job to control every train on the Northeast Corridor. That board represents 98.6 miles of track leading in and out of Penn Station. There are 11 platforms and 21 tracks in Penn Station. If someone down there makes a mistake, it's going to be a train crash. It's going to be a tragedy. And it never happens on the Northeast Corridor. And there's so many trains, so you know these guys are down here doing their job. The tracks inside Penn Station are among the most heavily trafficked in the world. So Amtrak constantly needs to replace them. But building new track takes time. and shutting down some of the world's busiest rail platforms every couple of days would be a nightmare. So the tracks are built off-site at the Sunnyside Yard in Queens.
You know the section of track you had on your model railroad when you were a kid? You just snapped together? Well, that's what these guys are building right here.
Here's how it's done.
First, they lay out the ties 19.5 inches apart. Next, they put the tie plates in. They use these giant wood screws here. Probably the biggest wood screw I've ever seen. Drop it right in there. Next, they take the rail, and then they lay it onto the tie plates. Each rail is 34 feet long. That's 1,541 pounds. You don't want that dropping on your foot. Those ties weigh up to 500 pounds each, and to move them, they use the tie tongs. Next, they line up the ties with those little white lines right there. Then, they hammer in the tie clips. That's what holds the rail in place. You guys are building a switch.
In a switch, one track diverges into two tracks. It's what allows trains to go to different places.
This part right here is the most important piece. It's called the frog. This is actually where the tracks diverge. There's the finished switch right there. You can see where the two tracks diverge up there at the frog. They're putting the last rail in right now. They just have to clip it in. It's going to be ready to go. To hold the rails together, they stick these joint bars in to secure them. Hold it together like a vice grip, makes the rail nice and smooth.
The assembled track panel can now be transported into Penn Station, where it's ready to be dropped into place. All of our new passengers are on board, and we're ready to leave New York's Penn Station and get on our way to Boston.
Owning these rails allows Amtrak to make improvements to trains like the Acela. This train has to run. Over 3.2 million people a year won't make it to work on time.
For the early electric trains, getting out of New York was a nightmare.
In 1909, when the Pennsylvania Railroad was building their line north of New York, they ran into a problem: how to cross the Hutchinson River.
The Hutchinson River is up to 80 feet wide and served as a main artery for cargo and supply ships going to and from New York's harbors.
The answer was to build the Peleham Bay Bridge.
But heavy boat traffic meant a drawbridge was needed. Open to traffic in 1909, the Peleham Bay Bridge worked fine at first. But the dawn of electric trains and overhead catenaries presented a new problem.
The problem with the drawbridge: what are you going to do with the catenaries? Those are the wires up there that give power to the train. The answer was to spring load the wires. When this part of the bridge goes up right here, the catenaries separate right there.
The separated lines allow the bridge to open and let boat traffic pass underneath.
Let's see this thing in action. Wow, look at that. Now that is pretty cool right there. You see how it disconnected? The wires are sagging down over there. Wow, that's pretty cool. All right, there you can see it's coming up right there. Check that out. And the wires are coming down. Now, it feels kind of dangerous standing out here. I'm a little bit close to these wires. Then you can see the springs over here. They're compressing.
Once the catenaries above the bridge are disconnected, the flow of electricity stops. But with this much power in one place, the crew can't be too careful.
They're not connected to the power system right now. There still could be 1,000 volts of residual electricity in there. So stay away. They're compressed right now. You can see them. They're sagging a little bit. As soon as there's tension on the catenaries, it's going to tighten up, and those springs are just going to go boing, and just go right back out. They're going to decompress. If it wasn't for those springs, you couldn't have catenaries on a drawbridge.
All the boat traffic below is passed. I want to see how they put this bridge back together.
Here it comes. It's coming back down. Nice and easy now. You can see the catenaries are going to come right back together right there. There it comes.